liberate, and lead. And we think that President Calhoun, you could definitely help us do that because we actually have the Thurgood Marshall Law Society, and then also we have the Black Student Law Association, and we have a pre-law program, which I'm in, and a criminal justice program as well. So definitely want to have you come and some of your team to talk to students and maybe see how once students matriculate into law school, they can just hit the ground running with the National Bar Association.
Absolutely. Well, look, I told you before, my email address is really simple, president@nationalbar.org. You send me an email requesting that presence, and I'll be there. I firmly believe that the more that we are coming back to institutions of higher education, the more that we are keeping these stories alive, Barbara, that is how we ensure that the next generation does not falter, that they don't have a misstep. And in my opinion, it is our obligation as those that have come before them to ensure that they know exactly what we have experienced and know how to combat it. And then we utilize their resources, their smarts, their new technology, and the way that they see the world to enhance our work against the opposition. And so I am more than available to come and speak with you. I look forward to the invitation, and I promise you I'll be there.
All right now, Daryl, I mean, that's pretty powerful. And before you leave us, President Calhoun, before you have to depart this show, can you just help us reflect on, our national strategy to push this resolution? Daryl, why don't you describe what the resolution is going to do? Because President Calhoun was with us, mightily with us, for that national town hall when we talked about the Eighth Circuit opinion, and we talked about our fight back. But since then, we come up with this resolution campaign. Why don't you describe it?
Oh, sure, Barbara. The resolution that we're speaking of is a resolution that is being introduced, and we're asking people to introduce across the country at local government levels, municipalities, city, and counties. And what it calls for is for the local elected body to send a message to the federal court and to the Supreme Court that they don't want the Voting Rights Act deteriorated anymore, that what's happening in Arkansas in the Eighth Circuit, that it's uncalled for, it's unjust, and it's a danger to voting rights for individuals. And just by way of background, what the resolution describes is that the Eighth Circuit decision would remove private rights of action from citizens that have been discriminated against under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, so that an individual couldn't say, you have this effigy up here hanging with a black person with a don't vote sign on it at a polling place, and you're trying to intimidate me, it's wrong, I'm suing you. It would prohibit that individual from doing that. It would prohibit the individual from doing it. It would prohibit any private organization from doing it, saying that only Office of the Attorney General could bring that lawsuit. And what this resolution does is that it calls on local governments to say, this is wrong, you're wrong in the Eighth Circuit when you do it, you're wrong in the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, if and when you take it up. It calls on those local governments to call them out and to be able to stand with the people that are being able to freely vote without intimidation. That's what it is, President Calhoun.
And hopefully, President Calhoun, the hope is that these jurisdictions will join as amici, friend of the court, folks. That's what that means, that they will express their opinion and support for the Voting Rights Act before any court that hears this matter moving forward. The Eighth Circuit, if they hear it en banc, meaning as the whole court, or before the Supreme Court, because this case is heading there no matter what we do. So what do you think? I mean, how do we get the NBA and all of our mighty, mighty lawyers involved in this fight for this resolution and to make the world hear the voices of all these municipalities?
Well, and not to create too much bureaucracy or pull back the veil of how we do business in the NBA. We will have, as you know, in order for us to act, we need resolutions, right? So the NBA is going to be moving forward with a resolution of our own, saying that we support this work and this endeavor, which will, we are having our mid-year conference in Houston, Texas, March 7th through the 10th at the JW Marriott in the Galleria. And so at our board meeting, we will adopt a resolution to support these efforts. And I think that this is important for your audience. You have to remember that since the Voting Rights Act was passed in Section 2, which gives the opportunity or the standing to come before and file these lawsuits, that less than 10%, and Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it almost 182 successful cases? But less than 10% of those have actually been initiated by the Department of Justice.
That's correct.
You have to remember that in this fight, depending on what the strategy is at the Department of Justice, they may or may not bring these battles before us. And so then you have to think about what happened in Alabama, where they intentionally tried to draw out a district of African Americans because they didn't want to give 2 congressional seats to African Americans in that state. Or you talk about the gerrymandering that happens. This is when the NAACP, the Southern Leadership Conference, all of these people have come together and filed these lawsuits. Now, the National Bar Association, we're in the training, the work of training and ensuring that we get more black lawyers into the profession and more black judges on the bench. That's our work. That's our job. We haven't in our past filed direct action. But when you talk about what is necessary, these individual Americans should have standing, that when you see something wrong, you can go before the courts and get justice. In our past, our Department of Justice hasn't, when you look at the overwhelming number of cases in comparison, has not stepped up to the plate and ensured that they were fighting for the voting rights of all Americans. That's not an indictment against the Department of Justice. It's just the fact. And if we don't have private actors who are willing to do this, and then you look at all of the politics that go into this, then you get into budgets that may be slashed and all these other efforts. It is important that we make sure that the private citizen still has the ability to come before the courts and get justice. And that's what this is all about. And so I applaud you all for the work that you're doing. And it is my goal to ensure that the National Bar Association supports you in those efforts. And we will continue to do that up and down the ballot with our election protection program and also training the new lawyers to attack these issues. And Barbara, I know that you have been not only a longstanding member of the National Bar Association, but also a champion with us and ensuring that education. And so I look forward to seeing you at our mid-year conference as you put on your CLE to educate the next generation.
Thank you, and thank you for being on our show. Thank you for joining, for joining us tomorrow night for the wonderful briefing we will do for the NBA membership on election protection. Just thank you for your leadership. It's inspiring. It's making a difference. And your voice today, I know, was heard throughout the country, throughout the world. Just thank you for everything you do. We are grateful to you. You have been magnificent. Please come back. We'll have you on in the future. And thank you. And I know Daryl wants to say a word also as you leave the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, President Calhoun, for all that you have done and all that you're going to do. And, we look forward to being in the trenches with you for this fight with regards to the Eighth Circuit. And you're absolutely on point with the changing administrations. We know that if it's the U.S. Attorney General and the Department of Justice that makes decisions with regards to voting rights and what cases are to be brought, that it's going to really change depending upon who the president is and what their interests are. So, we appreciate all that you do and standing in the gap to be certain that individuals have their rights to be heard and have their opportunity to protect their rights through the court. So thank you for all you do. We look forward to joining you and being with you in this fight. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you both. And as I've always said, you call upon me, I'll be there. So thank you, Barbara.
All right.
Thank you, Daryl. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Blessings. All right. So everyone listening, in South Carolina right now, they are voting. Their presidential primary is happening. They also had some special elections that they were voting on, last week. And there's, more to happen because the big general election is coming up on the 3rd. But they're early voting. Early voting is so important because most African American voters, if they're offered early voting, they will vote early. So it's so key that people are early voting. And I'm so happy to say that both Jaheim McRae and Drake Smith were in South Carolina, walking those streets, talking to those voters, really, inspiring people to turn out and vote and giving them voting information. And they were doing that under the leadership of the mighty Black Voters Matters, one of, TJC's really close partners. And we are so excited that they were there along with 23 other young, what they call liberators. We call them, freedom fighters. We call them freedom riders. We call them TJC fellows. I mean, it was just so amazing to watch your engagement. So can you tell us, Jaheim, what was the highlight for you of being in South Carolina?
Yes, thank you for that question. Definitely the highlight would definitely just be to be able to see people that I've met in this space over the years and being able to reconnect and just, see how we all do the same work and how we all continue to do the same work from when we first met. With that being said, I was able to see a lot of TJC fellows that I met back at the training in Houston and just being able to, really reconnect with everyone and just to see all the great work that we all do.
All right. And Drake, the same question?
I think for me, just like Jaheim said, for me, the training, it's always like a gathering of them, a meeting of the minds, and like a family reunion at some points, and just being around those freedom fighters, liberators, just people getting in good trouble. But for me, my absolute favorite part was just being in the Liberty Hill community. Attorney Arnwine, you were out there, canvassing with the folks. And then we had the We Fight Back block party at Charity Missionary Baptist Church. And Ms. Arnwine, you know this, but I always like to just learn about history and learn about those localized communities. Daryl, me and him coming from Arnwine County, we know about Carr's Beach. But this summer when we were in Florida, you took us to American Beach. And in a full circle moment, when I was on, we'll be on TV later, but I was on a Nephew Tommy's show, Black College Quiz representing Lincoln, and that was a trivia question, right? What is a Black-owned beach in Florida? And also, for all the listeners out there, we all know that Attorney Arnwine makes history, but now she's a bona fide Black history question because one of the questions was, who was the first Black woman to lead the Lawyers Committee on Civil Rights? And lo and behold, her name was right there in the study guide. And so, she's making history, she's living history, and she's giving it to the young people to continue going. Her, Daryl, and the whole entire TJC group. So, I mean, it was just a blast to be down there, learn as much as I can, but then also I just feel motivated to bring it back with me. Me, Mackenzie Hanks, and Jalen Marshall came from Lincoln. We drove 11 hours to south to Charleston, and we came back last night. And we drove because, a lot of people have gone a lot longer distances for a lot less. So it's the least that we can do. And we were just excited. And the whole way down, we were talking about how excited we were. And the whole way up, we were talking about just what strategies we're gonna be in place and what we're gonna do next. And we're trying to expand our efforts. We marched for Lincoln, but we're trying to do something bigger and unite HBCUs and give them some type of toolkit to work for themselves. So more to come on that.
Wow.
And Jaheim, it was certainly great seeing you down in Charleston. You heard, and saw some of the reaction